You know, one of the most overlooked aspects of personal transformation is awareness. It sounds simple, even trivial at first glance, but it's not. It's actually one of the most powerful weapons you have in this fight against weakness, because until you're aware, truly aware of the habits that are draining your strength, you're fighting an invisible enemy, and you will lose every single time. Most people don't even realize they're being ruled by their weak habits. They operate on autopilot, waking up and scrolling their phones before they even get out of bed, hitting snooze 3 times, saying I'll do it tomorrow, telling themselves they'll start fresh next week. They think these are just small things, but they aren't. These are the daily rituals of decay, and they compound. You don't just wake up one day in a ruin. You erode into it piece by piece, day by day. The first step, the absolute first step, is to bring those habits into the light, because you can't fix what you haven't faced. You can't kill what you haven't identified, and you certainly can't overcome something that you pretend isn't there. You need to become the observer of your own life. You have to develop the ability to watch yourself objectively, almost like a third person. Look at your decisions, watch your patterns, pay attention to the little ways you betray your own potential. See, people often think education is about gathering facts, but real education, the kind that transforms you, it's about self-knowledge. It's about teaching your mind to stop lying to itself, to stop sugarcoating, to stop making excuses. Real education is brutal because it exposes where you're weak. But that's also what makes it liberating. Because once you see the weak point, you can attack it, you can build over it, you can become stronger than it. When you start to notice your habits, not just act them out blindly, you reclaim power. And power isn't found in grand gestures, it's found in the subtle, repeated victories over self-sabotage. You catch yourself saying, I'll do it later. And instead you say, no, I'll do it now. That's not just productivity, that's war. That's rebellion against the inner slave who wants comfort more than greatness. The problem is most people don't want to look. They avoid self-awareness like it's a plague, because deep down they know they're not living the life they're capable of. They know they're not operating at their highest level, and it hurts to face that. It hurts to admit you've been the architect of your own failure. But that pain, that sting, is a signal. It's a gift, because it means your soul hasn't given up yet. It means there's still a fight left in you. Educating your mind to be aware isn't a one-time thing. It's a discipline. It's something you do every day, every hour, sometimes every minute. You check in with yourself. You ask hard questions. You watch your own thoughts. And when you notice yourself falling back into weakness, into procrastination, avoidance, comfort-seeking, you don't just accept it, you challenge it, you interrogate it. Why am I doing this? What am I running from? What would the strongest version of me choose right now? Those questions asked consistently are enough to shatter the illusion that weak habits are just part of who you are. They're not. They're patterns you've tolerated, can be changed if you have the courage to face it. Awareness gives you that courage. It brings you back into the driver's seat. It lets you see the fork in the road that you didn't even know existed before, and suddenly you realize you do have a choice. You don't have to give in. You don't have to keep losing. You don't have to keep living beneath your calling. But no one can give you that awareness. No one can install it in your brain. You have to want it. You have to cultivate it. You have to wake up every single day and say, today I will see myself. I won't hide behind distractions. I won't numb myself with comfort. I will pay attention. I will notice. I will learn. And I will fight. Because the moment you start seeing the truth about your own habits without judgment, without excuses, just raw, honest observation, that's the moment your transformation begins. Awareness is the beginning of war, and you cannot win until you choose to see. The moment you start seeing your weak habits for what they are, like we just talked about, that's when you come face to face with something even deeper, something more foundational, the beliefs that gave birth to those habits in the first place. Because no behavior exists in a vacuum. Every action you take, every decision you make is rooted in a belief and about who you are and what you're capable of. And if those beliefs are corrupted, weak, or self-defeating, your actions will reflect that every single time. People say, I want to change my life, but they never touch their beliefs. They treat the symptoms, not the cause. They try to change their schedule, their routine, their diet, but they never challenge the inner dialogue that says, you're not good enough, you always quit. You'll never make it. That's like patching holes in a sinking ship without stopping the leak. It doesn't work, it never has. You have to rewire your beliefs. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens through mental discipline. Relentless, intentional, daily discipline. You literally have to train your mind to believe something new. And it's not a passive process. It's war. It's intervention. Because you're not just building something new. You're dismantling years of internal propaganda that's been convincing you to stay small, to play it safe, to avoid failure at all costs. Let me ask you, where did those beliefs come from? Were you born with them? No. You inherited them. You absorbed them from culture, from broken family dynamics, from trauma, from every time you failed and weren't taught how to rise from it. And over time, those moments became rules. False rules, invisible chains. And you began to obey them like they were laws of nature. I don't have what it takes. Lies. All of it. And the problem with a lie is once you believe it long enough, it starts to feel like truth. That's why mental discipline is non-negotiable. You have to grab those beliefs and drag them into the light. You have to confront them, challenge them, argue with them. You have to speak truth louder than the lies you've rehearsed for years. But don't expect this to be easy. This isn't feel-good psychology. This is internal combat. You're retraining a mind that's been programmed to avoid effort, to chase comfort, to default to doubt. That's not going to change just because you read a quote on the internet or write a few affirmations on your bathroom mirror. It changes because you show up every single day and you do the work. You learn to talk back to your inner critic with clarity, with courage, and with conviction, not just once, every time it shows up. And here's something people don't tell you: belief follows behavior. You can't wait until you believe you're strong to start acting strong. You act strong first. You show discipline first. You keep your word to yourself when it's hard. You follow through when no one's watching. And eventually, your mind starts to get the message. Maybe I am that kind of person. Maybe I do have what it takes. That's how new beliefs are born, through consistent, aligned action. Think of it like forging a new path in the brain. Every time you reject the old narrative and choose the higher one, you're carving a trail. And yes, at first it's hard. You'll feel resistance. The old beliefs will scream. But over time, that new path gets stronger, faster, easier to walk. And the old path, it fades because you're not feeding it anymore. That's the power of mental discipline. You don't just learn to think differently, you become someone different. You start to embody the truth instead of just reciting it. You stop playing the victim of your programming and start becoming the architect of your future. But none of this happens if you let your mind run wild. An undisciplined mind is a breeding ground for self-destruction. It'll latch onto fear, comparison, jealousy, comfort, anything that delays growth. So you have to be ruthless. You have to train your mind like an athlete trains their body, with focus, with structure, with purpose. And when those old beliefs try to pull you back, and they will, you remind yourself, I am not my past. I am not my excuses. I am not the voice that says I can't. I am the one who chooses what I become. And that choice is made every day. So if you want to kill weak habits, you must rewire the beliefs that feed them. And if you want to rewire those beliefs, discipline your mind like your life depends on it. Because it does. You can do all the inner work in the world, build awareness, rewire your beliefs, discipline your thoughts. But if your environment is pulling you in the opposite direction, you'll constantly feel like you're swimming upstream. And eventually, you'll drown in it. People underestimate how powerful their surroundings are. They think they can out-discipline a toxic environment. They think they can outwork distraction, out-hustle negativity, or ignore mediocrity when it's all around them. But that's not how it works. You can't plant a seed in poisoned soil and expect it to thrive. Your environment is shaping you constantly, more than you realize. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, the routines you've normalized, all of these things are silently molding your habits, your mindset, your identity. They're either reinforcing your growth or reinforcing your stagnation. There is no neutral ground. There is no harmless influence. Everything is either sharpening you or dulling you. And that's a terrifying realization for some people, because when you really grasp this, you're forced to admit something uncomfortable, that part of the reason you're still stuck, still battling the same habits, still sabotaging your own progress, is because you've allowed yourself to be surrounded by mediocrity, by people who don't challenge you, by environments that reward passivity, by inputs that numb rather than elevate. And you've convinced yourself that it's fine, that it's not affecting you, but it is every day in subtle, corrosive ways. You can't rise while you're chained to what's pulling you down. You can't develop a champion mindset while you're surrounded by the energy of defeat. You can't cultivate discipline while your environment is designed for distraction. And make no mistake, this modern world is engineered to distract you. The endless noise, the nonstop notifications, the dopamine-driven algorithms, they're not just wasting your time. They're hijacking your attention, your willpower, your very capacity to think clearly. You must take control of your environment, or it will control you. You need to treat your space like sacred ground. Guard it, curate it, fill it with reminders of who you're becoming. Get rid of the clutter, the temptations, the cues that trigger weakness. Maybe you stop hanging out with that friend who's always cynical, always pulling you back into comfort. Maybe you stop watching that show that puts you in a lazy, passive state. Maybe you wake up earlier, organize your space, and structure your day with purpose. And it's not just about removing the negative. It's about intentionally designing your environment to call you higher. You surround yourself with people who are driven, disciplined, focused, because proximity to excellence is contagious. You consume content that feeds your ambition instead of numbing it. You create spaces that invite focus, rituals that foster growth. You make it easier to do the right thing and harder to slip back into weakness. You can't always control everything, that's true. You might be in a job you don't love, a household that's not ideal, a city that drains you. But you control more than you think. You control how you respond. You control what you allow into your mind. You control what you say yes to and what you walk away from. And over time, those small acts of control, they add up. They reshape your reality. It's like this. A lion raised in a zoo doesn't forget how to be a lion, but it loses the urge to hunt. The environment robs it of its nature. That's what weak environments do to us. They don't destroy us outright. They make us forget who we are. They sedate our fire. They dull our edge. And then we wonder why we're not driven anymore, why we don't feel alive. It's not because the fire's gone. It's because the air around you has no oxygen. So change it radically if you must. Let go of what's keeping you small. Step into spaces that demand your evolution and stop waiting for permission to outgrow the people, places, and patterns that no longer serve your highest self. You are not a product of your environment. You are the architect of it. And the moment you take responsibility for shaping the space around you is the moment you reclaim your power to shape the life in front of you. We've been told to fear pain, to run from it, to medicate it, numb it, avoid it at all costs. We've built an entire culture on comfort and convenience, and in doing so, we've created generations of people who see pain as the enemy. But pain is not the enemy, it's the teacher, it's the messenger. And if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to sit with it and learn from it, pain will shape you into something unstoppable. Every weak habit you have, procrastination, avoidance, addiction to comfort, it exists because somewhere along the line you made a silent agreement with yourself. I won't face the discomfort, I'll choose ease instead. And that agreement feels good in the moment. It's the path of least resistance. But over time, it becomes a prison. Because you start to structure your entire life around what feels good now instead of what leads to strength later. And what does that do? It stunts your growth. It suffocates your potential. It turns you into a shadow of the person you were meant to become. See, pain is not there to destroy you. It's there to wake you up, to point you toward what matters. Physical pain tells you something's wrong in your body. Emotional pain tells you something's misaligned in your life. And psychological pain, shame, regret, anxiety, that's your inner self screaming that the path you're on is not leading to your highest potential. Pain is information. It's feedback. It's truth. And it demands your attention. But we've been conditioned to ignore it. We bury it under distractions. We scroll, we binge, we numb, we pretend it's not there. And every time we do that, we miss the lesson. We miss the transformation. Because the growth you're looking for, the change, the breakthrough, the next level, it lives on the other side of discomfort. You cannot avoid pain and expect to rise. The people you admire, the disciplined, the focused, the resilient, they didn't become that way because life was easy. They became that way because they learned to embrace pain, to walk into it willingly, to let it sharpen them instead of soften them. And that's a choice. It's always a choice. You can either let pain become your excuse, or you can let it become your edge. Pain forces you to confront who you really are. It strips away the masks, exposes what's weak, what's fragile, what's untested. And that process, it's brutal, but it's also necessary. Because the version of you that can endure pain with purpose, that's the version of you that can't be stopped. That's the version of you that builds discipline not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. That, the version that walks into the fire and comes out forged, not burned. And understand this, choosing pain is not the same as chasing suffering. This isn't about martyrdom, it's about meaning. When pain has a purpose, it becomes powerful. When you decide, I'm going to feel the pain of pushing through this workout instead of the pain of being disappointed in myself again tomorrow, you've turned pain into a tool. When you say, I'm going to face the discomfort of setting boundaries instead of living in silent resentment, you've turned pain into power. It's not about punishing yourself. It's about refusing to settle. Weak habits are the avoidance of pain. Every time you hit snooze, instead of getting up, it's to avoid the pain of movement. Every time you delay your work, it's to avoid the pain of effort. Every time you give in to temptation, it's to avoid the pain of self-denial. But what you're doing every single time is trading short-term comfort for long-term suffering. And the irony is, the pain you're running from, it doesn't disappear. It just compounds. It builds in the shadows, and one day it shows up as failure, regret, lost potential, and by then it's much harder to face. But if you flip that dynamic, if you choose the pain now, you gain freedom later. You earn the strength that others only dream of. You become someone who doesn't flinch at hardship, someone who doesn't break when life gets heavy, someone who can look pain in the eye and say, I'm not afraid of you. I know who you are, and I know why you're here. You want to kill weak habits, then stop avoiding the pain that's been trying to teach you. Lean into it, learn from it, let it mold you into something unshakable. Because pain isn't your enemy, it's the training ground of your evolution. Most people live their lives reacting. They wake up late, already behind, already stressed. The phone buzzes, they check it. A craving hits, they feed it. A thought appears, they follow it. No intention, no structure, no resistance. Just reaction after reaction, as if they're being pulled through life by invisible strings. And then they wonder why they feel powerless, why they keep falling back into the same habits, why they never seem to gain any real traction. It's because without ritual, your life is not your own. It belongs to the chaos. Weak habits are born in those unconscious moments, the ones where you have no plan, no anchor, no rhythm. When you're ruled by your emotions or your fatigue or your impulses, you're not making decisions, you're just responding. And the brain loves that. It loves repetition. It loves ease. So if your default response to stress is to grab your phone, to snack, to scroll, to avoid, guess what becomes a habit? That. Every time you react, you reinforce. Every time you give in, you train your mind to believe that's who you are. But there's a way out, a way to reclaim your will. And it's not through willpower alone. Willpower fades. Discipline cracks. You can't rely on raw force forever. You need structure. You need ritual. Because ritual is stronger than reaction. Ritual is deliberate. It's conscious. It's a statement to yourself and the world, this is who I am. This is how I move. This is what I do. No matter how I feel. Think about it. Every powerful person you admire, they don't just wing it. They don't just hope they make the right choice in a tough moment. They build systems, morning routines, focused work blocks. Bedtime shutdowns, sacred space for stillness or training or study. Rituals that align their actions with their identity. And that's the key. Rituals don't just organize your day, they sculpt your self-concept. They reinforce who you're becoming. And you don't need to start big, start simple. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Is it intentional or is it reactive? Because how you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows. If you roll out of bed, check your notifications, scroll through chaos, you've already handed over control. But if you start with breath, stillness, movement, a written intention, you've taken command, you've drawn the line. It's the same with focus. When it's time to work, do you have a ritual that prepares your mind for war? A clearing of distractions, a review of your goals? Or do you dive straight into the noise and hope for clarity to appear? Rituals give your mind cues. It's time to show up, time to engage, time to perform. And over time, the ritual itself becomes the trigger for excellence. Reactions are unconscious. Rituals are sacred. When you build rituals, you start to remove decision fatigue. You don't wonder if you're going to train today. You already decided that yesterday. You don't question if you're going to eat clean. You built your meals in advance. You don't debate whether or not to journal or stretch or unplug. You've baked it into your rhythm. That rhythm becomes your shield, your compass, your proof that you're not just drifting. You're building. This matters more than most people realize because when the storms come, and they will come, it's your rituals that keep you grounded. When motivation vanishes, when emotion overwhelms, when nothing feels certain, your rituals are what remain. They're the rope you grab when you're slipping. And every time you return to them, you rebuild trust with yourself. You prove to your mind, I am the kind of person who keeps showing up. But be careful here. Rituals must be aligned. Don't build rituals that cater to your comfort. Build ones that demand your growth. Your ritual isn't supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to make you better. That's where transformation happens, in the tension, in the consistency, in the decision to stick with it when every part of you wants to bail. And yes, it will feel mechanical at first, forced, awkward. That's normal. You're rewiring a system. You're training your nervous system to obey a new rhythm. But keep going. Stay with it. Because one day you'll look up and the ritual that used to feel hard now feels like home. And the reactions that used to control you, they don't even tempt you anymore. You've transcended them. You've replaced chaos with clarity. You've replaced weakness with rhythm. You've chosen to live on purpose. And that's the difference between those who stay trapped in cycles of self-sabotage and those who rise above them. The difference isn't talent. It's not luck. It's not even motivation. It's ritual. Chosen, repeated, protected until it becomes identity, until it becomes inevitable, until you no longer react to life, you lead it. You can train your body, build routines, master your environment, but if your mind is starving for purpose, you'll still feel hollow, because discipline without direction is just motion. Strength without vision becomes burnout. It's not enough to do the right things. You have to know why you're doing them. Purpose is the fuel. Vision is the compass. Without those two, your efforts scatter, your willpower drains, and eventually you start to question whether any of it even matters. And that's the trap, that quiet erosion of meaning. You start off strong, maybe even obsessed with growth. But over time, if you don't connect your actions to a deeper reason, something bigger than just self-improvement for the sake of it, you begin to drift. You begin to wonder, what am I even building this for? That doubt left unchecked will rot your motivation from the inside out. Purpose gives you clarity. It draws a line between who you are and who you're becoming. It reminds you why you choose discipline over distraction, why you reject weakness when one's watching. It turns every small act, waking up early, pushing through pain, resisting temptation, into something sacred, something that serves a mission. And that mission doesn't have to be grand in the eyes of the world. It just has to be honest, real, something you'd fight for when everything else falls away. Vision, on the other hand, gives you direction. It keeps your mind focused on the horizon. even when the path feels slow. When you know what you're building, when you see it vividly, you can endure setbacks, boredom, discomfort. You stop needing to be constantly entertained or motivated because now your actions are tied to a future you believe in, a future worth enduring the weight of today for. But here's the truth. Your mind can't generate purpose and vision in a vacuum. It feeds on what you put into it. So if you're filling your mind with noise, with cynicism, with distraction, don't be surprised when you feel directionless. Don't be surprised when strength seems distant. You must be intentional about what you consume. Books that elevate you, conversations that challenge you, content that aligns with who you want to become. Every input is either fueling your fire or snuffing it out. You don't feed strength with empty calories. You feed it with meaning, with clarity, with a future worth reaching for. You remind yourself daily, this is why I rise, this is why I endure, and this is who I refuse to be, and this is the life I am building brick by brick, no matter how long it takes. Because when your mind is fueled by vision and your heart anchored in purpose, no weakness can take root in you. You become grounded, focused, relentless. Not because life is easy, but because you finally remember what you're here for. So here we are, at the edge of who you've been and the threshold of who you could become. And the difference between the two, it isn't talent, it isn't luck. It's choice, a decision to no longer live at the mercy of weak habits, a refusal to let distraction, comfort, or fear define you any longer. You educate your mind to see clearly. You rewire your beliefs to align with strength. You take hold of your environment before it takes hold of you. You stop running from pain and let it refine you. You build rituals that ground you when the chaos comes. And you fuel your vision with purpose so deep it pulls you forward when everything else says stop. This isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming alive, deliberate, resilient. It's about creating a life where weakness no longer finds a place to hide, because every corner of who you are has been claimed by something stronger. You don't break weak habits by fighting them once. You break them by becoming someone who no longer needs them. That's the path. That's the work. And that's your responsibility, because no one is coming to do it for you. Stand up, reclaim your mind, and become the architect of your strength.